The curse is real.
Hello and welcome to The Curse is Real, a Once Upon a Time podcast. As always, we are Once Upon a Time fans, and today we will be discussing episodes 8 and 9 of the show, Season 1, and we will be discussing spoilers as it pertains to these episodes and to all future episodes therein. We will also have a fair share of foul language, so we apologise about that, but you can go fuck yourself. My name's Martin.
I'm John.
I'm Katie.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jesse.
Mike has some YouTube comments for us, right?
I believe so, yep. The first one comes from Marina X Marika, and they said there couldn't have been a plan between Gold and Regina when Regina sends David off in the wrong way. Regina doesn't know that Gold remembers everything from Fairy Tale Land yet. Regina wasn't involved in the whole Prince Charming backstory, so I don't know how she could have known about the windmill. It must have been pure coincidence that Regina led David the wrong way. I think it was more her trying to lead him the wrong way rather than lead him to Gold's shop.
I actually thought about that too, and that makes sense. I think she was just trying to lead him off the wrong course and just used Gold Shop as a random, more out of the way landmark.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you were actually explaining that in the episode description last week, Mike. You were saying how Regina and Gold must have had some sort of
It felt like it. When watching it the first time, anyways. Maybe now that we know better, it doesn't feel like that anymore, but it kind of felt like that to me the first time I was watching it. I was like, why is she leading him?
Maybe Regina just knew that the windmill was in the shop. So
but that's what I would say.
That's possible, but she couldn't have she doesn't know that Gold is aware of his own past yet.
Right, but we weren't when that episode first airs, we're not sure of how much she knows. All right, so the second comment was by Apathetic Drone, and he/she said, funny how someone brought up the Graham-August similarities, because I think at one time they might have been the same character, but they had to change things up a bit because they couldn't get the rights to use Peter Pan. It's a pretty long comment, so I'll just summarize that there was apparently an interview with Graham's actor that says that he alludes to Graham being a different character. And some things that kind of designate that he might have been Peter Pan at one point.
I didn't read that. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I never saw that either, but that's an interesting theory. I mean, they've said several times now in interviews, you won't see Peter Pan because of the legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, if and when they work them out, they plan on throwing Peter Pan immediately in. But I wonder if maybe that's exactly the case.
All right, guys, Dr. Whale is Captain Hook. Just call him.
Oh, my God. That's who he is.
That'd be kind of funny, all the characters, you're not 100% sure what they are or whatever. At least Henry isn't 100% sure initially, who the characters are in Fairy Tale Land. And there's just a guy with a hook for a hand. He says, I just can't figure it out. Which one he is?
No. See. If he was Hook, he would be like Dr. Crocodile or something, or Dr. Croc. Isn't it a crocodile?
Dr. Croc.
Yeah, he wears Crocs all the time. Because isn't he?
Doc Croc.
Yes. Doc Croc. Hey, we have Doc Ock in the Marvel universe.
Speaking of which, yeah, we actually got to see Henry reading some Marvel books in the episodes we're going.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
that was an interesting throw in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this makes sense. Graham gets chopped off early, and then bang, hi, here's August, and leads you in another direction. You kind of get this feel. I mean, we were discussing this the other day offline about this and how it felt like the two characters were tied together. So
yeah, as soon as August got off his motorcycle and was looking all hot, I was like, oh, there's the new love interest. There you go, Emma.
And they did for the first couple of episodes while he was there. It kind of felt like that's where they were pushing them, but then it just kind of subsided.
Which I was okay with, actually.
And our third comment, Mulan means magnolia flower in Chinese by Liliad E5EN Raptured.
See, I thought that it was Japanese for she who tucks her between her legs. Wait, no. That doesn't make sense. No, that's the opposite.
Leave it in.
That's exactly what a magnolia flower is.
The sexiest Once Upon a Time podcast on the internet.
No, it don't make sense.
Leave that in, Martin.
Wouldn't it be the opposite of tucking in? Because she was trying.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, like, wouldn't it be like tucking out? I guess.
Tucking out. Tucking out.
We're gonna let it all hang out.
I'm gonna wait for the episode where they reveal Magnolia and just keep expecting her to end up being a crying game situation.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they cast a transvestite for Mulan? I'm just saying. I'm just saying it would be.
So,
There's just so much complexness.
so the point of this is that Magnolia is the name of the Asian girl in season 2. So she's Mulan. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder if the allusions to Pocahontas then are just accidental.
Oh, I'm sure they're not accidental.
No, I mean, like, think about it, though. The whole stuff about communing with nature and everything, maybe that's just talking about how Mulan was spiritual and stuff.
No, Mulan was not at all spiritual, really.
The
She had
story
a dragon.
was. What about the freaking Eddie Murphy dragon, you know?
Yeah, she didn't really. She prayed to them like once, and then they were like, "Okay, we're gonna save her, to restore our family's
Well,
honor."
they didn't really show her living at home very much, so you didn't see her talking to the ancestors much. You didn't see anyone talk to the ancestors much. But I believe if it had been like the story of Mulan, of her at home or whatever, I bet you probably would have.
Yeah,
I
but
think
like
everybody
the whole thing
was
with, like being in tune with nature and being able to like hear whispers in the trees and whatnot. That's a real Pocahontas.
Yeah,
thing.
it sounds more Pocahontas-y at first, sight, but I think that, I don't think that they've set up anything in Once Upon a Time to make you believe that there are mini talking dragons or anything like that. So I think that, saying communing with nature is kind of their way of putting Mulan's spiritual side in without having to, pay for CGI for spirits or anything. You know what I mean?
Or Eddie Murphy.
That I'm not going to be able to actually take the character seriously now.
I know.
Because we're gonna be introduced to Mulan, and I had already made fun of Mulan a ton with Jesse when we watched the movie not too long ago, and that was going to make it hard enough. But now I'm going to just keep imagining, she has a penis, and I don't think I'm going to be able to stop myself from making jokes about it. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, so about that episode 8.
I want to talk more about Mulan penis, but
That's what they came for the podcast for, so we could talk about Mulan penises. Continue with episode 8.
Episode 8, Desperate Souls. And the fairy tale section, it starts off with Rumpelstiltskin sitting in his little house. And he's obviously not the monster yet, the little imp dude yet. He's just sitting, hanging out, spinning thread. And then his son, Balefire, rushes in and tells him that the Duke's men are here. And they run out. And apparently the Duke sends out these knights every so often to round up kids to fight in the war. The Ogre War, as they call it, or the Ogre Wars. And then people try resisting, but then somebody steps in the background with like some sort of magical chokehold, and you think it's Darth Vader, but no, it's this guy called the Dark One, and you don't really get to see him very well, so he's very mysterious. And then Rumpelstiltskin is very noticeably afraid of letting his son Balefire go to war because he's like, oh, you'll die, it's gonna suck. So that night,
It's gonna suck.
It is.
Die.
He's like, you have to tuck it between your legs so nobody has to see you go to war. The opposite story of Mulan. Avoid going to war by pretending to be a woman. Then they try and Rumpelstiltskin takes his... I can't say that word. Rumpelstiltskin tries to take his kid in the night and run off. But then they're stopped by a beggar on the way, and he's like, can I have some money? And Rumpelstiltskin's like, okay. And then they keep going. And then the Duke's men show up randomly on night patrol, and the same guy from the first scene is all like, hey, Rumpelstiltskin, I remember you from high school. You're an idiot. You're a nerd. And they give him a wedgie, essentially.
It's a lot more heartbreaking than that.
It is a lot more heartbreaking than a wedgie.
I don't know. I think I would have. I think I would have.
There's a swirly. They pants him. They drag him around the track.
All right.
And they call him nicknames like what's it called? What are the nicknames they call?
Shanks.
Spindle Shanks,
And then
which is so
What's-
offensive.
Or
That
they
is
could just kick him in the face like they actually did.
that's true. They did that.
That's less humiliating, though.
Yeah, but it hurts more.
But then they remind Rumpelstiltskin that during the war he ran away like a coward, and apparently when he came home, His wife couldn't bear to be with him, so she left, according to this guy. He accosts Rumpelstiltskin, ridiculing him in front of his son, and then the beggar from before takes pity on him and carries him home, promising to be his benefactor. And the beggar is played by Brad Dourif, who's one of my favourite actors, by the way. I just thought I'd mention that. Anyway. Back home, the beggar tells Rumpelstiltskin that the only way to stop his son from being taken to war is with power, which is a big deal for Rumpelstiltskin, as we know. And then Rumpelstiltskin is all like, nah, that's not possible. And then the beggar tells him that the Dark One, who we saw in the first scene, serves the Duke only because a dagger with magical properties that the Duke keeps hidden in his castle. And Rumpelstiltskin's like, And then he's like, I don't want to have the Dark One as a slave because he'd be terrifying. It'd be like having a really scary Pokemon that's too powerful. And then the beggar's like, yeah, well, you could just take the power from him and use it for yourself. And Rumpelstiltskin's like, oh, that's a good idea. Nothing bad could come of that. Rumpelstiltskin prepares to enter the castle with the help of his son the next day, planning to burn their way in. And Balefire is like, he asks his dad if what the knight said the other day was true and if his mother really did leave, and Rumpelstiltskin's like, no, it's not true, she died. Then under cover of darkness, Rumpelstiltskin enters the castle by setting fire to the hay around the castle and causing all kinds of commotion, and he gets inside and he steals a dagger, which has the word Zoso on it, which is the name of the Dark One, which is what gives the thing its power or something. And then, upon returning, Rumpelstiltskin summons the Dark One in the middle of the woods, and the Dark One's like, you're a wanker, Rumpelstiltskin, calls him Spindleshanks, probably, makes fun of him. It basically not really. It basically intimidates him into killing him by suggesting all kinds of things. But then, when he dies, the Dark One is revealed to be the beggar from earlier in a huge plot twist that I'm sure nobody saw coming. Except everybody did. Then the next morning, the Duke's men show up to enlist the Children of Battle, and Rumpelstiltskin goes John Woo on their asses and kills everyone and is all like, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. And his son's like, shit.
All right, so Storybrook. Emma walks in on Mr. Gold in his shop, and he pretty much fakes sympathy about Graham's death. And the gist of their conversation is that that she's supposed to be sheriff now because Graham was sheriff and passed away. And then Emma talks to Henry, who's being emo, and says, the good's never gonna win. So you already know from the get-go that you want to punch him in the face, and also that this episode is going to be about, Henry, well, kind of somewhat about Henry, like, changing his tune, so to speak. Then Regina walks in on Emma when Emma's about to put the badge on to become sheriff, and she says, nope, loophole, I get to put whoever I want in, you're fired.
Not so fast, douchebag. You're gonna ruin shit.
And then she puts Sidney Glass, who is the newspaper guy, in charge, as sheriff. And
I like that his official title is newspaper guy.
Newspaper guy.
Even Emma, I think, calls him that. She's like, the newspaper guy?
Yeah.
That is his title.
And then Mr. Gold comes back to talk to Emma again and pretty much says, no, I got your back, bro. And says that he's going to help her because he wants her to be sheriff, which is a little questionable. And then later at Regina's press conference, Regina tries to make it public that Sidney is now the sheriff, and Emma's like, aha, loophole to your loophole. And basically they have to have an election now of some sort to decide who's going to get it. So popularity contest between the attractive white chick and the black man, that'll be fun.
No.
Kidding.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Good.
I saw it, terrible, but don't say that.
Because later on in the episode, they're like, "Hey, it was such a close race. There's that one guy that made the difference." And she's like, "No way, man."
Like, stop before you hurt yourself.
The one racist fairy tale character.
Yes, there's got to be. It's got to be like one of the bad guys.
Dr. Whale.
I thought it would be.
Dr.
He's from Song of the South.
Oh.
So they're going to have a political election thing, and then Regina goes to Gold, and they have a little mini cat fight with each other about they're pretty much just threatening each other. No, nothing.
How was
big.
that a cat fight? I'm sorry.
No, it was a cat. It was. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
You know the prerequisites of a cat fight.
What, that they're
Unless,
women and
unless,
what?
unless Rumpel is tucking it between his legs. This is not a cat fight.
I'm sorry, this is what it felt like to me. I'm just saying. It was it was a little spat that really didn't mean anything. Anyways.
Actually, it kind of, nah, to me it did, but hold on. Anyway, let's go on.
Okay. So then Emma learns through Henry that the mayor has her juvie records printed in the papers because Sydney is the paper guy. So they use his influence to on the paper, obviously, to kind of like make Emma look bad. And Henry comes back and says, see, this is why evil wins. Curtis is real. And then Emma tells Henry that, don't worry, I got Mr. Gold. And Henry's like, no. No. Don't do that. And so Emma visits Regina and you know, is like, hey, you printed my records. And that's exactly how Emma sounds.
Children and women sound the same.
Only slightly higher pitch.
No, I mean, you know, they have the same bloodline and everything, Emma and that's where Henry gets it from. And Regina says that, you know, there's going to be a debate, and then a fire breaks out right as Emma's about to say the word fire, which was a little corny, not going to lie. And then Emma saves Regina's life, and people see that Emma's saving Regina's life, and
I loved how when she was Regina gets like trapped, her foot gets trapped under the wood. She's like, "Save me!" And Emma looks at her and just leaves. I was like, "Yeah, leave her."
Like for 1 second, you thought she was actually going to leave her.
Yeah, and then she came back, and I was like, "Oh."
So, anyways, people see that Emma is rescuing Regina, and you go, "Wow, this is going to help her with the election thing, political." Shiz.
That's the first thing they think.
And and in those words too, they're all like, "Oh, the election, the election, political
Election.
elections,
This
electoral."
is gonna be so good for your image, Emma. Let's make posters and da-da-da. And I'm like, someone almost died today. Can you like?
And then
I wish
I'm almost done. And then Emma looks at the scene, and she does her sheriffy thing, and she's like, "Wait a second, this was an arson," and figures out based on something earlier in the episode that it was Mr. Gold. She confronts Mr. Gold, and he does the whole, you know, if I did it, this is why I did it, and does the whole evil confession thing.
just as planned.
Yeah, and Emma says, you know, I don't like you. I don't like that. That's no good. And then during the debate, I guess, was it during the debate?
Right before.
Yeah, it was right before the debate. Emma's like, no, you know, I can't do it. It was a setup. Mr. Gold did it without my permission. And
Oh, it's at the beginning of the debate. Sorry.
okay, and everybody's like mildly shocked. And then Mr. Gold,
Mildly shocked.
if you look at their reactions, they're all like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, nobody watches
Oh.
Mr. Gold at all. Nobody looks at him. Nobody watches him leave. I think, like,
Yeah.
one chick
It's like,
turns
oh, there
around,
goes the
like,
arson.
oh, right,
It's-
that guy. All right, whatever. And,
Should we arrest that guy?
what?
Should we arrest that guy?
Yeah, there's a debate going
Well,
on.
no, there's no sheriff right now. Who's going to arrest him?
Kind of true.
Oh, sorry, no lawman, no law.
That'd be great. There's no sheriff right now, so there's crimes going on outside.
It's like riots going on outside. And
That's the great thing about Storybrook. There's one newspaper guy, so he gets fired, so there's no news. There's one sheriff, so if they get fired, there's crime everywhere.
I really want to see that as a deleted scene now. That'd be amazing. Just crime going on everywhere because they don't have a sheriff.
You
Hey
cut to
there.
Dr. Whale
Totally not.
looting a shop.
it's all Dr. Whale.
Damn it, Dr. Whale.
Raping and pillaging.
It's all
He is Storybrook's most wanted, Dr. Whale.
And all right, so then later Henry joins Emma and is like, you know, good might always lose, but at least you did the right thing. And then Sydney and Regina are like, you won. Congratulations. And because apparently people were like, oh, she stood up to Mr. Gold. We're going to vote for her now. And then at the
Is
end,
she going to arrest him? No? Oh, whoops.
still not going to arrest him. And now that there's an actual sheriff, of course, she could arrest him, but whatever. And then at the end of the episode, Gold reveals his evil plan, in which he says, you know, I knew that you were going to turn me in, and that would boost you over the 51% to get yourself elected. It was all part of my evil plan. Mwah ha 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 ha. And she doesn't really like that very much and kind of glares at him and leaves. And
doesn't arrest him.
Doesn't arrest
him. Do you want to do discussion now?
I think I did the
Sure.
discussion.
Yeah. Well,
we could do
didn't
that.
really discuss a lot about Rumple.
That's kind of the meat of the episode, is the fact that finally we get to see how Rumpelstiltskin became the very, very, very powerful, evil, and malicious character that he became in the fairy tale universe.
It was.
And did anybody else find it very underwhelming how it happened?
Not really.
No?
Well, because first of all, I actually thought, like, you know, because we've seen Gold and Rumple just as these really strong, like, totally in control of everything ever types of people. And then the first thing we see is Rumple is this real, like, he has no self-esteem. He has no, like, he can't stand up for himself at all. And that's so strange, you know, just seeing him start off that way.
It was strange, but also something about it is just off to me, because I think one of the reasons that I find it off is because every time we've seen Robert Carlyle, and I mean in like anything, anytime you see Robert Carlyle, he's always a very dynamic performer. He's a great actor. He's got so many nuances to his performance, especially in this show. And then you see him in Fairy Tale Land before, and he's just like, not in front of my boy, not in front of my boy, not in front of my boy, in every scene. And he's got the same facial expression. It's just the same one-note performance. And it's just like, there's nothing here. Why would I give a shit about this guy who falls to the dark side? It's like, there's nothing interesting about that.
See
seeing
that
this one-note.
I don't know. I feel like he's been like in fear for so long, especially, you know, because he ran away from the war, which is, I guess, a real, like, the highest form of cowardice for them. Like, that's, he's kind of used to it, so he doesn't really have, like, he doesn't have, like, much of a, like, dynamic personality just because he's been tramped down for so long, in my opinion.
Well, he kind of mentions that in the episode. He says, you know, my boy is the only thing I have left, and I think that actually includes personality, too. He has become so obsessed with raising his son, because that's what he has, nothing else. He doesn't have his pride, he doesn't have his honor, he doesn't have his social status, he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have much in the way of possessions. I think he's a worthless, nothing loser, effectively, because of what he did in the war, except for his son. So there is only one dimension to him.
If they had shown more of him, like, being an actual parent before, like, the soldiers came and started screwing around with him, then maybe that would have fixed it. Like,
possibly.
I think that maybe in future episodes we'll see that sort of thing. We might even see him in war in that situation that led him to be there. And I'm sure that I'll appreciate the character's fall from grace when I see that. But as it is, it's such a hokey character to see him just be like, wibble, wibble, wibble the whole time. It's like there are other ways to portray, like, fear and cowardice than just wibble, wibble, my lip is quivering and I'm sort of like raising my eyebrows a bit, I'm upset. You know, it's just there was nothing to it, in my opinion. It was like, I didn't feel like there was any reason to get invested in him because
my heart broke. My heart broke for him. Oh my god! Especially that scene when the Duke, when they're trying to run away and the Duke finds them. I was like,
that's not the Duke,
or whatever, the really mean, like, captain or whatever. I was so upset.
But that's why I compared it to High School Bullies, because that's what it felt like to me. It felt like just a bunch of...
Oh, he totally was a high school bully.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it any less sad to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Though I've never heard of a high school bully insisting that I kiss their boot.
I thought it was kind of interesting with, there were definite connections between what Zozo would say to Rumple and what Rumple ends up saying to, like, everybody else. Starting with all magic comes with a price, of course. But he also says, you know, oh, everyone had, like, you know, Rumple will say, like, oh, I had no choice. And he says, oh, everyone has a choice. And Rumple says that to Charming, like, when he's the shepherd, and a couple of, I think a couple of other people, but I'm not remembering who. And then in the episode itself, the recognizing a desperate soul was a line that both Rumple and Zozo said, but it's Rumple as Mr. Gold. And then both of them are exceptional at manipulating people, and then both of them have loyalty to no one but themselves, which I found, because obviously, like, Zozo was working for the Duke, but he was manipulating Rumple to kill him so that he could escape it. So clearly he didn't have any kind of loyalty towards him. And also the whole idea of having a ton of power, but that huge limitation of the knife being like the kind of like the genie's lamp in Aladdin.
Yeah.
And also that names are very important, which is like a neat tie-in for me to the original Rumpelstiltskin story, because names were so important. His name was so important to the whole story.
I think they really tried
too.
playing that up, and they had some allusions to it in the Storybrook part as well. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the only thing that names were actually important for was for Zozo. And when Rumpelstiltskin becomes the Dark One, and the night guy, the high school bully, is like, wait a second, you're Rumpelstiltskin. It doesn't mean a damn thing.
And it's interesting because when later on, when August gets the dagger, he doesn't even use Rumpelstiltskin's name. He just says, I command you.
Maybe it's the
It's
physical
because- well, that's
dagger.
because-
What the hell's
yeah,
the point of the
it's
names thing?
The name binds the person to the dagger.
So it's really only important to the person who gets the curse. Nobody else needs to give a shit about names.
No,
Which kind
really,
yeah, like I
no.
said, it either something's wrong, something is off about that. It's just it's either not as important as they're making it out to be, or maybe as they're alluding it to be, or maybe that you're alluding it to be. I don't think it's like a big deal in this world. I think maybe in the original fairy tale it was, though.
I'm just no. Well, like I don't know what the original fairy tale for this type of story is, but for Rumpelstiltskin's original story, just for his character alone, names were a big part of his original story with like the miller's daughter and everything. And then it's just neat that that his backstory of how he came to be the like imp that he is involves like a significance with names is all. Though Zoso has a significance. I didn't get to read all of this. There's a website called onceuponatimefans.co.uk, and they have like the most extensive like fan theories and whatnot apart from the Wikia. And this one person wrote up this whole big long thing on what Zozo's name meant, apart from being on a Led Zeppelin album, because it's actually an occult symbol, and it's probably a little bit too long to really get into here because it's massive. But she goes into like how it's connected to like astrology and how the characteristics kind of are attributed to like how the Dark One acts, either Zoso or Rumpelstiltskin. It was actually a really interesting read, but it would take way, way too long for me to go all the way through it to like explain it all. And also balefire is Old English for great, fatal, or evil fire. And also is, oh gosh, where is it? Here we go. It's also connected to the Beltane festival, the pagan festival where fire was lit to burn overnight to welcome in spring. Which is a interesting name for a kid, but for the episode, fire is so important in what happens to Rumple and how he becomes what he is. He sets the whole freaking castle on fire. That I guess it works, but I'm still curious as to who would want to name their kid after horrible fire.
Well, did anybody else think? I mean, the first time I was watching it, this is how I felt. That every time that he said "bay," he was just trying. I didn't realize that was his boy's name. I thought they were trying to say "boy" with his accent.
No, I got Bay as his.
Because then
name.
when Balefire himself calls it like Balfire in front of the.
Oh, is that how he says it?
That's how the kid says it in front of the bully guy. But
Oh, okay.
when Rumple says it, he keeps saying "bay." So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just his way of saying "boy."
Well, I don't know. I always said it Balefire because in Wheel of Time there's actually like a magical thing that people can do called Balefire, and literally the E and the L are just switched. So that's why I called it Balefire. But
I think that's the proper pronunciation.
Yeah.
The kid just didn't.
Maybe the kid just fucked up.
Also,
Yeah.
another thing, we see this kid again later in the season, and Jesse and I both noticed this. He was a much better actor later in the season. Like, I realized
Yeah,
a
that's
couple
good.
of the lines just really didn't sit right with me, the way he said them with this one, with this
I'm glad he
episode.
improved. So.
But
Yeah.
later on, he was fantastic, you know?
You probably watched it and was like, "Oh man."
Yeah, the boy actors kind of take a while to get the grips of
Yeah,
things. But
like
I
in
think,
the next
I think-
episode, Hansel.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
yeah. But the little girl actors are all fantastic.
yeah, it's because
Yeah.
we're better.
Girls rule. All right.
Yeah.
That's just the only explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's
Jesse-
the overall lesson of this whole series is that girls rule, and they're just playing into that more by casting good girl actors for
Exactly.
the children.
I realized that this episode is the first time that we actually see Regina and Gold really have a verbal spar. Like, they've snarked at each other in the past, but this time they're actually going kind of, I mean, it's kind of like quote unquote catfight-ish, but like Mike said, but at the same time, this is really the first time where they're clearly antagonizing each other and on opposite sides. And that happens quite a bit through the rest of the season, but I realized, I was like, wait, this is the first time they really start drawing boundaries between them.
I think before this episode, when I first watched it, it wasn't clear to me whether they were on the same side or not.
Yeah.
Because they both had something to do with enacting the curse. You know, they were both clearly the bad guys, so to speak, but it wasn't certain whether or not they're just two different parties that happen to both be bad but don't like each other, or if they're in cahoots somehow, in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cahoots.
I also, did anyone else notice how much Sydney like doesn't think for himself?
How much Sydney doesn't think at all, you mean?
Yes, he just
I mean,
doesn't
how much he
think.
doesn't have an accent?
The character's a complete moron. He's like, my new sheriff. Who? You.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
So-
he
He's
doesn't
running.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Duh. I make
voice.
newspaper article now.
I make the
newspaper
newspapers.
Yeah, like he clearly just did what Regina told him to do, and kind of had no like other thought about it. He had like no intelligence other than that.
Maybe they hadn't fleshed out his backstory
He's-
yet, and they just
well,
kind of
he-
just a mirror. thing.
Even with his backstory, he's not that smart.
No, he isn't.
no.
But like he thinks like a reporter, but not like not a particularly intelligent reporter. Because his first reaction is always to go for the story when he should be like campaigning for sheriff and whatnot. Especially that like a couple of the scenes where like Emma's being lauded as the hero and he's starting to take pictures instead of making a statement or showing that he's helping out or something like that.
Anyone
And
else notice
Regina
how
yells
he
at him for
drinks
it.
a lot? He likes to drink a lot.
I didn't notice that.
Various different episodes, you catch him drinking alcohol at Granny's place a
that's
lot.
right.
A lot.
Well,
I wonder if that's going to be important or a sign of something later on.
I mean, we find out later on that he has feelings for her, so maybe he's just drowning his sorrows over and over because he knows that she's manipulated.
Maybe he knows what happened with her and Graham.
Maybe.
Also, who else thinks that like it would have been hilarious, but obviously they wouldn't have ever done this if Emma gets the sheriff position and Regina comes up to her and says, the sheriff has other duties that he.
Oh!
Mike,
Once
you
upon a
just
porno,
really-
huh?
I will get you to eat my forbidden fruit.
Oh,
Mike, you just want to push that way too
Yes!
much.
It will happen.
Good lord. Did anybody not call the fact that the beggar was the dark one?
I didn't. I was cool.
I had an inkling.
You
I wasn't.
you didn't know?
No.
You genuinely didn't know?
No.
I think when I watched the episode
Even
the first
though
time, I
he's
wasn't
the-
actually looking. I was just listening.
Even though he's like the only other character in the flashback, he's played by a big name actor, and he just happens to know how to defeat the
I didn't
dark one.
recognize
Yeah,
even though
that's the
he's a
thing.
beggar.
Like when he was known, I'm like he is much more in the there's something more to him than that's not being told. There's no way he's actually a beggar. But I didn't make the jump to the dark one immediately.
Yeah,
I made the connection, but I thought he was trying to get the dagger back or something.
Yeah, like he was
Well,
manipulating
yeah,
Rumple to
maybe.
do something for him.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't
there
get
is
the
that.
connection that he was trying to get himself killed.
yeah, and I also
That
would
was
be
a surprise.
maybe it's because I've heard actually Code Geass has a very somewhat similar story about power transferring by the first dying.
Yes.
And I guess it really didn't. The story really didn't impact me that much because it's like, oh, okay, heard it before, kind of thing. Where it's like the person with immortality and power and everything like that kind of wants to get rid of it and feels it's a curse, and tries to get somebody innocent to take
Yeah.
it from them.
Yeah, that's a good parallel. Actually, I didn't think of that.
It is an old story that's been done
Yeah.
a lot, but
Yeah.
I did want to mention Brad Dourif is, like I said, one of my favorite actors, and I thought it was a genuine shame to see him wasted in this episode. If they bring him back, it'll be fantastic because that guy has some acting.
I
chops
would like
that
to
was
see
just-
more of the Dark One, like screwing with people and whatnot. And that's going way back in Storybook history because
Screwing with people? What do you think? It pranks people or whatever using it?
No, but I mean, or like just because like how did he like end up with the Duke and what's he been doing with the Ogre Wars and whatnot? Just because they've been fleshing out other villains. I'd like to see them flesh him out a little bit at a time.
I never got the feeling that they were going to, and here's my
Me
reason.
neither, but I would like it.
Well, like it, yeah, but I have a feeling that they're at least not planning on it, because a lot of the times whenever they were planning on explaining it later, they don't give a sufficient explanation, and they don't try to. They just kind of allude to something like, "Oh yeah, that thing," and then make you wonder what that thing is. But they kind of explain, "Oh yeah, the Ogre Wars, the war with the ogres, the one that Rumpelstiltskin, defected from and became a." They kind of explained everything. So it feels like this is like a starting point in the massive timeline of Once Upon a Time.
That's true.
But here's an interesting issue that I just thought of, and we'll go to episode 9 in a minute. The Duke has the Dark One as his slave.
Mm-hmm.
As we've established, Rumpel used the powers of the Dark One to end the Ogre Wars. Why didn't the Duke do that?
Well, here's
Duke caused
something
them.
that occurred to me. The person who had the Dark One enthralled wasn't actually the Duke. It was one of the Duke's vassal knights. So he could have been keeping the power of the Dark One under...
How do we know? Wait, hold on. How do we know which one had it?
Because it was that guy's castle that he said in the show.
No, it was the Duke's castle.
No, it was the Duke's castle.
It was the Duke's castle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I can't think of a reason why the Duke wouldn't have used it.
I mean, maybe the Duke really doesn't actually... I mean, in
Maybe
some
the Duke
ways he kind of
started the
enjoyed
Ogre
the war, maybe?
I was thinking that he started it.
Yeah, he's kind of...
Yeah, maybe he got pissed off at the ogres and was like, I'm going to take their land, and then Rumpel's like, fuck this, you guys are going to go back to where you came from, and we're going to go back to where we came from, and this war's over.
Right.
Actually, I kind of picture Rumpel, Dark One, walking over there and killing every single ogre he
Yeah.
finds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because even though he said he was going to use it for good, that was before he became dark, so...
Yeah, because you see how quickly good turns into whatever I define it as today.
Okay, that's one of the other things I wanted to say. How creepy was it when Rumpel comes back as dark one Rumpel?
I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny that he just that all of the guys just kind of sit there while he stabs them all. Okay.
No, not
Yeah.
even.
And on
not
top
even,
of that, I was kind of expecting like Spider-Man to come down out of nowhere, and because it was such a puny weapon. It was this little dagger, and it's the new Spider-Man, and he's like, "Oh no, you found my weakness, small knives."
no.
He also had instant gingivitis, even though it had only been less than a day.
Yeah. But I was gonna say after he kills the men, he's like, "Do you feel safe now?" to his son, and it was the creepiest thing because Bay is like, "No, I don't feel safe," and he's like, "Well, I'm not afraid of anything anymore, but you should feel safe." And like, he's so sinister that you're not even sure that he is going to protect his son for a second there.
I'm not afraid of you. Also, this episode sees the first ever superheroic act of Super Pumpkin saving someone's life.
Wait a minute, she pulled up Henry and Archie from the mine.
Oh, that's true. This is her second
And
superhero.
she also captured that businessman guy to the tune of some weird song that had nothing to do with the rest of the show.
Yeah.
That was
You know what we were
Okay.
talking about before, where I want them to replace all the scenes with just a pumpkin sitting there still for all of Emma's scenes.
A pumpkin chasing that guy.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da. You see him running, and then you see the pumpkin getting closer and closer, but it's not actually moving. And I think the best scene would be when she's rescuing Regina from the fire.
Jesse,
It becomes a roast pumpkin.
That pumpkin is
Regina looks over.
mayor.
you are my
Let's
super
vote the
pumpkin,
pumpkin
Jesse.
in as sheriff.
Do we want to move on to episode 9?
Jesse is my
Yeah.
super
Yes.
pumpkin for life.
Oh, you.
I just want to say Regina saying you didn't want people to know that you cut his cord with a shiv is like the most screwed up thing
I
anybody's
know,
said in
oh
the
my
show.
God.
Wait, what? What'd she say?
Wait, what?
When she talks about giving birth to Henry in the prison, and she comes over to Regina's like, you gave away my juvie records, what the hell's up with that? And Regina says, oh, you didn't want people to know that you cut his cord with a shiv? And I'm like, what?
I totally missed that line.
Yeah, that was just evil. That was like, oh, dude.
Oh, that's
Anyway.
horrible. I didn't even.
Yeah.
How did I not catch that line? Wow, I must have been writing down something down or something.
You don't believe. That's why, Katie. It went over your head because you don't believe in.
I
the
really
curse.
hope they go
Yeah.
more into Emma's past.
They
Me
have to.
too.
They have
because
to.
They've alluded at the identity of Henry's father too much for it to be something they pass over. I think
Yeah. And speaking of, we go to episode
it was
9.
Dr. Whale.
Oh, no, I hate you.
So, Fairy Tale Land. Scene opens. There's a woodcutter out in the forest, and he's chopping down a tree, and he's out there with his 2 kids. He asks them to go off and collect kindling, and they go off, and he gives them this compass and says, "This will always lead you back to me." Okay. They go off, and when they come back, oddly, they don't use the compass to come back. They come back, he's gone. So they start running around through the forest, screaming for him, because that's a great idea. Your father has vanished, and let's make a lot of noise. And they run down to the main road. They get out on the main road, turn around, and whoomp, there's the Queen's entourage. And they try and run away from them, and, well, the Queen was with them, so she just teleports in front of them, poof, grabs them, wraps them up in vines, and says, "Well, okay, you guys are brave, so instead of just killing you for being in my woods, I'm going to make you a deal. There's a witch. She has something I want. I can't go into the house because of the magical protections. Children can."
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
We said on a previous episode that we weren't sure if the blind witch had stolen the apple. She said she stole something from me in this episode.
Oh.
It belonged to Regina.
Okay, that's important.
So that complicates things, and I don't remember exactly how, but I do know that was not what I was theorizing before. So
Okay, well, that's an interesting point. So they agree because her offer in return is, "I'll find your father and reunite you." Okay, this is the only thing they care about, the only thing they want. So they go off into the forest, following her directions, and they find a house, and it's a gingerbread house. The children are Hansel and Gretel. So they sneak into the house through a window, and they see on the wall the thing hanging. Okay, that's what the Queen said we need to get. So Hansel keeps looking at all the junk. "Oh, this looks... No, don't touch, don't touch." Gretel goes over, sneaks up,
Because the
she
Queen
reaches up,
warned them.
takes the thing down. She turns around, and there's Hansel with a big look on his face and a big cupcake with blue frosting. And
retarded. I'm sorry.
Fucking
After-
don't
Wait
wait 5 seconds to eat the fucking cupcake.
You know what I would have done? I would have taken the cupcake. Sure, because taking it doesn't
Yeah.
make her up. Take all the cupcakes you want. Wait until you're out of the stupid freaking house.
Yeah,
and a
seriously.
mile away.
the Queen didn't actually describe what happens if you take a bite. She didn't say,
No,
"Oh, the
she
witch
just
will wake
said,
up."
whatever you do, however you're tempted, don't eat anything.
Exactly. So it could have been poisoned. Now, obviously, there's magic that makes kids want to eat it. But anyways. So the witch promptly wakes up, uses her magic, slams the doors, slams the windows, captures the kids, throws them in a cage. And she's like, "Oh, which one do I want to eat? Which one do I want to eat?" And she's really kind of hamming it up to terrify the children. And she decides she's going to eat Hansel first. Hansel's kind of all locked up in this, so Gretel's like, "Okay, we'll swap because she's blind. She won't notice. She'll just feel she's grabbing someone." They swap as she reaches in to grab Hansel. Gretel goes out, grabs the key off the witch, throws it to Hansel. Hansel unlocks himself. He goes to get a weapon and trips and makes noise. Witch hears him, twirls around. "No! What do you think you're doing?" And she goes to challenge him, and she's going to probably just destroy them now because she's so angry, cook them right on where they're standing. She keeps screaming about butter or gravy. And the two trick her, twirl her around, throw her in her oven, slam the oven closed. They grab the bag again, and shoom, they run out the door. And they've been unknown to them. The Queen's been watching the whole time. She's all happy, looking through one of her mirrors, watching this occur. And she sees the other witch in the oven. She's, oh yeah, throws a fireball down into the oven, flares the oven up, and cooks the other witch in her own oven.
I can't go in there, but I can throw fireballs in there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I thought that too.
Same.
So
What's also with the she can move things, with her hand, but she couldn't unlock the door or whatever to get out of the oven?
Yeah, that too.
The doors, yeah.
yeah,
She's
not
in
sure.
too much pain, I guess.
Well, she didn't seem in pain. She just seemed angry at that point. But
Yeah.
that's a fair point. So the children go back to the Queen's palace. They give her the bag. She pulls out of the bag this nice, shiny red apple. she's very happy, and the children look kind of confused. And she says, "All right, children, I'll tell you what. You're brave, you're powerful, you're courageous. I'll tell you what. You can live here with me. You'll have your own rooms, you'll have your servants, you'll have infinite food, infinite wealth, everything you could ever dream for. Your father ran away. He left you in the forest to be on your own. He doesn't want you anymore." And they don't believe her. They insist that, no, if you bring our father here, he'll tell you you're wrong. We know he wants to be with us, and we definitely want to be with him.
What's with the witch and inviting people to stay with her? She must be lonely as hell.
Yeah, I had a note about that too. Yeah, we have a note.
So,
Or not the witch, the queen, you mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, the
Well,
witch.
she is a
dressed
witch,
like a
but
witch.
whatever.
so she gets angry, and she sends the children away. And you don't see it at that exact moment where she sends them. You just see she sends them off in a twirling thing, which, by the way, looked just like the kind of thing Jefferson made.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So she sends them all away. And then she calls for a prisoner as she's watching Snow hang out with dwarves. And she makes a throwaway comment, which I think is meant to tie into when this is happening. She says, "Oh, so she's hanging out with dwarves now. When did that happen?" And the soldiers bring the prisoner in, and it's the father. And he wants to be released because his kids are alone in the forest. And she
Probably not
asks,
the only reason he wants to be released.
well, probably. Well, you never know with him. But so
That guy.
Mike.
asks him, "I offered you children everything. I offered you children infinite luxury, wealth, power, everything." And they refused. Why did they do that? And she's genuinely curious. She's confused. She doesn't understand why. He says, "Well, it's because we're family. We always find each other. We always want to be together." And this answer bothers her. So she's like, "Fine. You know what? Let you be together." And she sends him off and away, and then mumbles under her breath, "As soon as you can manage to find each other." And then they flash to Hansel and Gretel, and they wake up and they're lying in a forest. And they're like, we need to find Dad. We're in the forest. We need to get out. We need to find him. They start wandering off together. And the camera pans back, and it looked to me at least, it's the infinite forest where Charming was banished to be lost forever.
Okay, so for Storybrook, it starts off with two kids. They say hi to Henry in a convenience store, but then try to frame him for shoplifting. Their names are Ava and Nicholas. And then the storekeeper catches them, who is Sneezy, by the way, I noticed. And Emma
okay. I didn't get that.
Regina shows up, takes Henry away. Emma comes because she's the sheriff, and they say their parents can't pay the phone bill, which is why their phone doesn't work. And Emma thinks they're just trying to help out and gives them a ride home with the supplies that they tried to steal, which I guess she obviously paid for. She drops them off at a house and drives off at their insistence, and then they run around it to a dilapidated old house behind it where they're living on their own in the basement with no parents to be seen. Emma finds them because she spotted their lie and had followed them somehow, and they admit that they don't have parents. So she takes them to the apartment she shares with Mary Margaret, and Mary Margaret, knows them, but she had no idea that they were parentless. And Emma doesn't want to report them to social services yet because she has horrible memories of her own time in the foster system and is sure that they'll be separated and wants to try and find their father instead. And it's established that their mother had passed away. So she goes to the records office, but the records have been removed by Regina, who has contacted social services, and they want the twins in Boston tonight to be separated into a boy's house and a girl's house. And clearly Emma's upset about that.
Just in case those of you who aren't fully aware of geography of the United States, Maine is a separate state from Boston. It has its own cities. It has its own state
Yes,
government.
I noticed that too. Why is it always Boston?
So, exactly. They wouldn't have been sent to Boston.
Henry talks to Emma later on and asks about his own father. Emma tells him he was a fireman who died saving a family. And Henry gives Emma the idea of holding on to something left behind because he asked her if she had kept anything from his father.
That
So
scene
she
was
goes and
funny.
asks-
Like, did anybody else think it was funny? Like,
No.
okay, he's like, do you have anything I could keep of him? And she just smiles and says, okay, leaving you, bye. How is that a response?
No.
Your kid is asking for something from his dad, and you're just...
Oh, no. Yeah, I found that funny. It was a little odd. It was like, what? Oh, okay, you're just gonna
Oh,
leave
yeah,
now.
the reaction, yeah.
Okay, I didn't find it funny. I just whatever.
Well, you're just
Anyway.
not as weird as we are, so.
I guess. So she goes and asks the twins if they have anything that they know that their father owned, and they give her the compass and said that their mom told them that he owned that. And so she goes to Mr. Gold and asks if he's seen the compass before, and he says that he has because it was bought in his shop. And he gives her, quote unquote, a name from his records of the purchase, except the card is blank. So he somehow knows who this guy is. And Emma finds him, and he's a car mechanic, and he just says that he can't believe he has twins at first, but even convinced he doesn't want them, which obviously upsets Emma a lot. So she talks to Mary Margaret, distraught that she can't help the twins, but she has no choice to pack them into the car to leave for Boston, and also reveals in the conversation to Mary Margaret that she lied to Henry about the story about his father, that he was no hero and he's better off not knowing the real story. So she takes the kids to the edge of Storybrook, where her car stalls right near the edge of town, and she calls for, quote, for help. And she calls for their dad in the tow truck, and he comes. And her car is basically fine. She tells him she wanted him to see them once before she left. And he decides to keep them and give them a home. And then Emma and Henry are talking near her car when a stranger pulls in on a motorcycle and asks about lodgings. And Henry had just said to Emma, like, 2 scenes prior that she was the first stranger to ever come to Storybrook, and so this was officially very weird. And then the internet explodes, wondering who this guy is.
Yes.
It was a great reveal, great reveal of that character, if you ask me, because of just how mysterious he is and how you don't know whether you get a good feeling from him or a bad feeling, and he is obviously a very enigmatic character.
And they wouldn't even give us his name. I believe that the whole Apple thing started when we were watching the Maleficent episode, and
because she said she gave.
We're trying to figure out the origins of the curse. Rumpelstiltskin made the curse. Then we're not sure how it gets to Regina's hands, but then, or rather, we don't know how it gets to the Blind Witches. No, not the Blind Witch.
No. Maleficent has the curse.
No. But it was insinuated that Regina gave her the curse.
Yes.
So somehow it went from Rumpelstiltskin to Regina. Maybe it wasn't directly him giving it to her, but they've insinuated that it was. So
no, I think she outright said that in one of the episodes.
Yeah. Okay, so Rumple makes the curse, gives it to Regina, probably through a trade. Then she trades it to Maleficent for a sleeping potion, which she uses to make the apple. Then the apple gets stolen from her by the Blind Witch. Regina goes back and wants the curse all of a sudden. I don't know why. I told you guys back in that episode that's just weird to me.
Yeah.
Well, wait, hang on. She wants the apple first, and so she sends the kids to get the apple, and then she uses it on Snow. And then she goes to Maleficent when it doesn't work because Snow is getting married, like when she chose to see Maleficent in episode 2. So
I just don't understand why she had to trade the curse away in order to do that. She could have just,
She may have figured that,
like
I don't need the curse because I can just poison
Then
Snow.
why would she have taken the curse from Rumple in the first place?
Because plans change. She might have heard that Maleficent had
all I'm saying is it's just that
it does seem odd, especially with seeing as how methodical Rumpelstiltskin has been. Why he would make the trade unless he knew that all this bullshit was going to happen. Obviously, I guess he could have.
Well, yeah, he seems to be really good at knowing what people are going to do, and I think he probably made the trade with her. It was probably for some kind of favor, some kind of knowledge, or something valuable to him again, knowing that no matter what, in the end, she's a desperate soul. And they even say that a couple of times in the previous episode. I always recognize a desperate soul. Mm-hmm. So if the writers were really sharp, they're thinking of that.
Yeah, because at the time, she really wanted to get rid of
I think at that episode they hadn't fleshed out their ideas, though. We had decided that they could.
That's possible.
The point about Regina wanting the kids, because she was clearly emotional and upset when she was talking to the father. John and I were talking about that last night. And John, you had a couple of interesting things to say about that.
She wants the kids really badly because, as I put it last night, she has this concept of she sees these happy families around her. And she wants instant family, just add children. Sort of like, some kind of mix, just add water. And she thinks, oh, well, this is how it works. You have the children, bang, you have the family, everybody's happy. She tries to do this with Henry, too. It's a very similar scenario.
Oh, yeah.
She's handed this child, here, bing, child. And he's constantly trying to get away from her now.
And the evil characters in the show.
And
Yeah, Rumpel wants
Yeah,
them as well.
Rumple just likes collecting them.
Yeah,
and
Rumple likes
Regina
collecting
wants to
them.
adopt them all. So whatever.
yeah, Regina wants kids around. She somehow, I don't know if she believes this will make her happy or if she feels that this is what you're supposed to do. I'm not sure of her actual personal motive, but she's not necessarily obsessed with, but driven for having a family because, I don't know, maybe that she thinks that leads to happiness.
Wouldn't it be
And she
interesting?
tries
if
it once in Fairy Tale Land and they refuse her. And then she comes to Storybrook after firing off the curse, and, well, he's a child, a true baby. He can't say no and run away.
Mm-hmm.
So she tries it again, and, of course, it's failing
Well, I'm
again.
not 100% sure how she gets Henry, but
Gold procures him for her.
no.
Yeah, though we don't know how he
Right,
gets the
right.
child.
Yeah.
I was thinking an interesting parallel between her, Regina, and the Blind Witch. The Blind Witch also likes kids in her stomach.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think the queen eats children, though.
No. I don't think she does. But what I'm saying is, it could be. I doubt they're going to go this way. But it would be interesting if we found out that there was some sort of child in Regina's life or whatever, and the Blind Witch ate it.
That would
Well,
be
I-
amusing, but I doubt it.
I doubt
actually
it.
had
They
this-
haven't said any reason.
Yeah.
I actually had the thought that when we see how she meets Snow and everything before the betrayal happens, she genuinely likes Snow. Like she's good with talking to her and everything. But she doesn't end up getting the surrogate, like the stepchild the stepdaughter that she really wanted, because there's that rift between them because of that. Because of everything that happened with Daniel and everything. So maybe part of her was maybe she was looking forward to really settling down with Daniel somewhere and starting a family, and then Snow and she likes Snow. She apparently likes kids if she's good with Snow, like just a kid she's never met before, and then she gains a husband and a daughter, but there's a huge rift there. That's not what she wanted. She doesn't really love them. So she wants to try and find kids of her own that she can love, but because she can't find a love interest anymore.
It's interesting that, in the process of her trying to have a family, or the instant family, as John puts it, she's actually destroying a lot of families in the process of doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she really is.
Because she doesn't get it. She doesn't she has
Right.
the fact that she has to ask the dad. Why would they refuse in favor of you? Like she doesn't get it.
I'm so nice. Why would they say no?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, her own situation with her own parents, like her mother was terrible, and her father loved her, but he was much more in the back. Her mom was the dominant presence, so she didn't grow up in a healthy family relationship anyway.
I like Regina's Fairy Tale Land outfit in this
Yes,
episode. It's been
I
crazy.
love her outfits. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I would like to cosplay every single one of them. I love.
That's a very weeaboo thing to say, Katie.
I don't give a crap. I don't care.
The wicked weeaboo of the West.
Oh my god.
One little point I had that occurred to me is they've got this compass that's supposed to always lead them to their father, and yes, the lens on it is cracked now, but we see in the episode when the father comes up in the truck and
Storybook.
Emma takes it, yes, in Storybook, and Emma takes it from him, it spins and points at the father.
I thought magic wasn't supposed to be in this world.
Emma defies that.
Yeah, but Emma isn't the compass.
No, but Emma's holding the compass, so the curse, because she's immune to the curse, in her possession, the magic's going to work. But anyway, that's not the point I'm getting at. This compass, even though it has the cracked lens, it still actually works. Why then, when they were in the forest, didn't they just take the compass and go find their father?
It probably would
Now-
have led them right to the carriage. or
Well,
something.
hold on a second. I don't think the compass itself was magical, in that I don't think it would magically point to the dad. There's no reason
Actually,
for
he
the dad
implies
to have
that
a
it
compass
does.
that points to himself. You know what I mean?
No, it always
No,
points to your
it points
family.
to him. It points to family,
It points
and
to your family.
it
So
definitely points to him.
It
Yes.
Well, no, it does at the end. Yes, I'm saying when he gives it to them, it's never insinuated that this will always point to me. Why would a guy have a compass that always points to himself? I think it was
Family.
just a compass, and he says
Family.
family
No,
always
no.
always finds each other, and you know because
I mean,
these
why would a
compasses-
guy have
Yeah.
a dagger that gives him power? I mean, it's a magical
He
world. They just
says
He
that
says.
the compass will always lead them back
To
to
family.
him because it's family, not because it's him. It doesn't point to him. If the mother was still alive, it could have pointed to her too.
I don't
that
know.
this will lead them to their family. He's the only member of the three that isn't present.
I understand.
Mike, the curse is real. Just accept it.
The compass will point to him. Forget why. Forget why he has it. If they're in the infinite forest and is supposedly trapped forever, and therefore the compass isn't going to work, because, well, we saw it work in Storybrook, so we know in theory it works. Jump forward 17 or 18 episodes. Rumple and Charming are in the same forest, and Rumple tells Charming that magic can lead him out, and takes his family ring and chants it and says it will lead him to snow, which we sort of already knew anyways it would lead him to love. So Charming successfully uses that enchanted item to get out of the forest.
That's true.
Shouldn't their compass still have worked even though it's the infinite forest?
That's
Do
true.
we
don't
know
know-
what Regina does with the dad?
She
This
just
is
doesn't go.
true. She could have thrown him to the Queen of Hearts. We don't know. This is true.
Also, we don't know that the kids are lost forever. We just see them in the forest. We don't know that they never got out.
And
Technically.
they're kids. They might be too stupid to realize that the compass could help them.
Especially
Well,
if that kid,
and you know what?
especially if that kid ate the fucking
Yeah.
cookie.
Well, hang on.
Maybe he ate the compass.
He ate the compass.
Don't eat the compass. Nom, nom.
Whatever you do, don't.
That's the
eat.
thing, though. Like, Gretel has her shit together. Hansel's a dumbass. But Gretel's really smart. And in both Storybrook and in Fairy Tale, she's smart and she's really intuitive, and she's the one who really helps them both survive.
To be honest, I didn't feel like it was the story of Hansel and Gretel as much as it was the story of Gretel and that one retarded kid.
Yeah, really.
Seriously, he
That's
he
probably-
barely had any lines. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do anything except fuck everything up.
That's probably why Gretel didn't want to separate Hansel. She was probably like, "Please don't take me away from him. He's gonna
He won't
eat
survive more than
nails
He'll, he'll
and
chew his
stuff."
arm off in the forest.
Yeah.
He
No,
won't survive
Hansel,
5
don't
seconds
eat your
away.
heart. Not again.
Yeah, she actually reminds me of Emma. Like, very self-sufficient, very much like if Emma had, someone who was, weaker than her, she, like, as a kid, I'm pretty sure she would have kind of acted like Gretel and looked out for them. But she's very self-reliant. She's very smart, very good at, getting
And
around
Hansel
things.
reminds me of a quieter Milo from Avatar.
No,
That's now
Milo's
two
smarter
blondes
than that,
that they have
okay? Milo is way
insinuated.
smarter.
That's now two blondes that they've insinuated are Emma like. You had Cinderella where they were drawing the whole, pregnant teen thing. And now we've got, kid who
It's like an episode of Naruto. The moral of each episode is the same. If you,
I think you could tell though that Emma really sees some of herself in the kids because they're parentless. They might have to go into the foster.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying they're doing the same thing with Cinderella.
Yeah.
It's
It's
true.
It's a one-off character episode that's more about Emma learning a lesson about herself than it is about the characters in question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We never see them again, right?
I think we see Gretel at school with Henry.
So one other thing I wanted to bring up from this episode. How did Gold know who Emma was looking for and be
Yeah.
able to rattle off where he was when they show you he's holding a blank card?
He doesn't have involvement in the Hansel and Gretel story.
Right, and yet he still knows where they are, he still knows who they are, he still knows who all involved are. That almost implies that you're into a situation where he's showing that prescient nature of the Dark One in this world. It's like another solid hint.
Yeah.
He still has not just his knowledge of who he is, but maybe some trickle of power or ability.
No,
Maybe
because then August would have been able to use it against him later.
Yeah, well...
Well, no, I'm
the
thinking,
dagger
I'm
doesn't
thinking
have
something
power.
along the lines of the curse. You know how he says, well, I have eyes and ears everywhere too? Maybe the curse itself is his eyes and ears.
Because we know that he does have some power because obviously he does the please thing with Regina, and that still works. That is
Right.
still in effect. The dagger doesn't have any power because it's an item, and therefore, unless it's being held by somebody who can use magical items, or unless the magic is back in the world, that doesn't work. But he might still have power inside him.
Or he wrote it into the curse, and the curse is his power now.
Some things have been left over that just flat out do have the same magical consistency, because the heart that the huntsman has is still beating in a drawer underground and can be used to kill somebody.
And then Regina has the ring or whatever.
Yeah.
So these things do
potion.
still exist. There are
I just wish that it was a little bit more explained as to why certain items have survived the curse and why certain things didn't.
I think they mention it in some episode somewhere that some items still had some power, but I think they just kind of gloss over the why.
Oh, I think that's Martin's favorite episode, the one where they bring the Mad Hatter back.
If you look into it, the items that do have power both belong to either Rumpel or Regina.
Queen. Yeah, and also...
and they made the curse, so...
Yeah, and I was also...
No, not all of them. The compass.
The compass, that's true.
The compass only works because Emma picks it up.
It only works because
she's
Emma's
the one
that's your theory.
Yeah. Well, it's a theory, but also she kisses Graham, he remembers.
Yeah.
She holds a compass, it works.
She's the only one who can leave, etc.
Yeah, she's not the... In a lot of the episodes, she's not so much a foil for Regina as she's a foil for the curse itself.
Yeah. On that note, did you notice... I've been kind of noticing this, that as I'm watching through it again, when stuff works out for Emma, a lot of the time Regina isn't there. Like, Regina is trying really hard to, like, impose the curse, especially when people start deviating from what she wants to do. And she clearly has influence, and she starts to win, you know, when she's really trying to. But then, like, you know, Emma was with the kids on her own with their father, and that's when he really had a change of heart. And then, you know, getting what's her name, Ashley, to the hospital. Regina wasn't involved with that, and that's not. I mean, it's just a theory, but it was kind of like spheres of influence. Like I feel like Regina can kind of pull the curse into her favor so that it, you know, comes down hard, like, for example, on David or whoever, and really drives people apart the way she wants it to. But then because Emma is the foil, Emma bends it in her own favor to try and help the people she's trying to help, regardless of the curse. And then there's Gold, who made the curse, and he clearly has some kind of influence on it too, because he gets his own way against her when this whole world is supposed to be her happy ending.
I don't like Hansel's actor.
No.
Me either. And they don't look like twins.
Yeah,
Give it back, bro.
That rankled me a little bit. It's one, you know, fraternal twins are still the same age, and they clearly look like 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Mike and I noticed when Sneezy thinks that Henry is shoplifting, Regina picks up the candy bars and is like, "My son doesn't eat candy."
Yeah.
Even though in the mine shaft he had candy bars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed is he stops them, and he pulls out like a couple candy bars from Henry's bag. But then when Regina picks them up, half the frickin' store is on the counter.
Yeah, like toothpaste and
dense
stuff.
does Henry have to be for Hansel to be standing there shoving, like, you know, sofas and refrigerators into his bag?
Yeah.
Maybe he tried stealing more stuff while Regina was on her way there, and he caught him again. Stop doing that, kid!
Yeah, but stop that. But it's also funny that when Sneezy is at the front of the shop and pulling stuff out of Henry's bag and is like, "See?" And Henry turns to Brett, the Storybrook equivalent of Eva, and he's like, "That's why you were talking to me. You were putting stuff in my bag." And she clearly looks really guilty, and yet Sneezy completely ignores it. Is like, "Henry, I'm disappointed."
Yeah.
He's right.
Well, maybe he hates Henry as much as we do.
Yeah, maybe.
I was kind of surprised that Regina didn't, like, make a jab at Emma about Henry stealing, saying, "Well, he does have being a criminal in his genes," you know, like something like that.
Well, he's already been to jail once because he was
That's gold.
terrible.
It's something like that, you know what I mean? I was kind of surprised, considering she didn't hesitate to do that before.
And also something I noticed before Henry comes in, and, you know, as we know now, she is super pumpkin, so when Henry offers her pumpkin pie, it's cannibalism.
Oh, cannibalism, yeah.
Yeah.
But before he offers, she's looking in her a file, and you see the newspaper article that says 7-year-old finds child on side of road, and we know now that that's about Emma. And then August comes up, like, almost immediately after.
So they had that planned at this point.
Did you guys think that the whole like exchange between August and Emma has like a lot more meaning now because now it's him coming to Storybrook and seeing Emma for the first time since she was a baby and recognizing her for who she is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I wonder, because a lot of times the actors and actresses aren't told stuff like that. So I'm kind of interested in to know if he did know how that was going to turn out at that point, and if so, or rather, if not, if they told him, look, you got to act like you kind of know something more right now.
Probably that. as
We
well.
haven't written that far, but
Well, no, but they had planned it though at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either
they
way, I
definitely
mean,
planned it.
he gives Henry this great look of, now this is new.
Yeah, he has the aura of kind of like Gold's aura of I know way more than I'm telling. Or
Yeah, we
so.
also don't know what his name is at this point either.
Yeah, we don't know what his name is yet.
I thought he was going to end up being the guy who wrote the book. Because
Me
he obviously
too!
takes-
And so did
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, I had a long and elaborate theory, and I'll get to that
And we
in
were
the proper
so
episode.
mad.
Well,
but it
it's
wasn't
possible
true.
he still wrote the book. Still possible because he did call himself a writer. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the things that he did was write the book. Between the
Well-
last thing that we see him do as a kid and
that
The
begs
only
question of how
problem with
Margaret
that
got
is, yeah, how did Mary Margaret get it?
well, of course, we still don't know how Mary Margaret got it. I'm just saying the origin might have been him.
That would make a lot of sense, actually. That, yeah.
It would
I
be
don't think
odd,
that
though, because...
Is it just
it
a
would be odd that-
throwaway line that they call him a writer, though? That's what I'm saying. Why would they just?
No, not necessarily, especially where he adds to the book.
But
Yeah.
Not a
he
throwaway line.
He specifically says that the on Emma's like birthday doesn't he start turning into wood?
Yeah.
Something
Wait a
like-
second, guys. Him being Pinocchio doesn't explain how he knows about the book. I think that's concrete evidence that he did write the book.
That's
No.
actually maybe, but he could.
How would he know about the book?
Well, we'll find out in the next
We'll
few
find
episodes. We'll be watching them, but I kind of want to say he said that I don't think he'd ever been back to Storybrook.
He hadn't.
He
Until-
himself doesn't have to go back to Storybook in order to have Storybrook to have the book itself go.
That'd be weird, though.
Who knows? How did Henry go?
Hold
from
on.
someone in
No.
Boston?
We're not thinking about this right. Who says the book was written in this world? What if the book was written in fairy tale land beforehand? The
Why
book
would
isn't
they-
an
but why would
inherently
they-
magic because you chronicle events. History books. We have tons of history books. It's
Yeah,
just
but
a
it
history
isn't. It
book
isn't
to them.
presented like that. It's presented as once upon a time. That's
Yes. Once upon a time, our glorious prince and our glorious princess got married. Here's their backstory. Here's their baby. And oh no, something really bad's happening.
It's a
So
distinct possibility. It's a
let's
distinct
write a happy
possibility.
ending for it.
Also, if it was written in that world and it was brought over when the curse happened, then it would have been changed like everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think its origins are probably in the real world.
I'm
Well,
inclined to
I'm
think that way,
hoping to
but
find out.
yeah, I'm inclined to think that way, but it's an interesting thought.
I think once we see some actual text from the book, we'd be able to determine whether or not it feels like it could be history or not.
I think we'll probably be waiting about 2 or 3 seasons before we know
Yeah.
conclusively.
Oh, I hope not.
Well then, that's all that we have for these 2 episodes. Stay tuned. Next week we'll hopefully have another installment of The Curse is Real, where we will be watching episodes 10 and 11 of Season 1. And Katie, would you like to take us out, as you always do?
Absolutely. We are Once Upon a Time fans, and you are listening to The Curse is Real, featuring Super Pumpkin.
Tuck it between your legs.
Super Pumpkin.
Tuck it
Talk it between your legs. Oh, Super Henry and Super Pumpkin OTP.
I can't wait for Mulan.